Hello everyone, and welcome to the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization's 2045 MTP website. I'm Nick Landa with RSNH, and I'm here with Bob Cook and Aaron Kinney of CRTPO. We're glad everyone's joining us today, as well as members of the community for this webinar. We hope to be able to provide an introduction to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, as well as explain ways in which you can be involved as this plan is developed over the next year and a half. One of the more critical, important parts of this plan is stakeholder and public involvement. It's a very valuable part of the process as we develop this plan and move towards a final product. Aside from this webinar, we will also describe several other ways in which you can be involved with this plan throughout the next year as it's being developed. We anticipate this particular webinar to last about 20 or 30 minutes, and we would like to set out a few guidelines before we get started into the material. So please mute your phones until you're directed to join the discussion. Do not put the webinar on hold. Some phones and systems have music that plays during hold, so we don't want that to distract others while we're going through the webinar materials. Please be mindful of any background noise that you may have at your particular location. And if you are going to speak during the webinar, please introduce yourself before doing so and don't interrupt others when they're speaking. So with that, again, I just want to thank everyone for joining us, and I would like to turn it over to Bob Cook at this point, and he will get into the materials.
Thank you, Nick. I'd like to start by noting that this is the CRTPO's second series of webinars. Hopefully there are some of you joining us who also participated in our Comprehensive Transportation Plan webinars held last summer. If so, some of the background info on the CRTPO may be familiar. I'd like to welcome both those returning and those of you who are perhaps joining us for the first time and are less familiar with our organization. As mentioned, the focus of the webinar is the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or 2045 MTP for short. Before I get into more details about the MTP, I want to remind everyone that our organization, the CRTPO, is responsible for managing transportation planning in our communities. The CRTPO is the federally designated Metropolitan Planning Organization, or MPO, for the Charlotte urbanized area, and our planning area includes Iredell, Mecklenburg, and Union counties. All urbanized areas in the country with a population larger than 50,000 are represented by an MPO. The CRTPO has the largest population of any MPO in North Carolina, with a population close to 1.3 million. MPOs are responsible under federal law for long-range transportation planning and for allocating federal transportation funding to eligible projects. One of the significant ways in which this is accomplished is through the development of the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. So why is the MTP important? The MTP is important because it defines goals and policies of the CRTPO to serve as a framework for future transportation. It addresses federal planning factors that are intended to enhance various aspects of the transportation system, and it identifies federal funding for priority projects throughout the planning area. The MTP is a long-range plan that looks forward a minimum of 20 years. It is updated every 4 years to ensure the best available data are being used when establishing our priorities. The currently adopted MTP is the 2040 MTP and was adopted in April of 2014. One other thing to note about the MTP as a long-term plan is that it's directly related to other planning efforts conducted by the CRTPO. In particular, the CRTPO is currently in the process of approving its Comprehensive Transportation Plan, or CTP. In fact, last night the CRTPO's Policy Board adopted the CTP's 4 maps, and the next step in the approval process is for the North Carolina Board of Transportation to do the same. For those that are familiar with the plan, the CTP is a long-range assessment of existing future transportation needs that explores how to provide the best travel choices in our growing region. The CTP looks further out than the MTP and doesn't identify priority projects or funding. However, the CTP is the starting place to envision the desired transportation network, and then it feeds into the MTP, which establishes the project priorities. On this next series of slides, I'd like to highlight some of the significant aspects of the MTP. The MTP contains federally recognized planning factors that include such topics as safety and security, economic vitality, the environment, connectivity, and preserving the transportation system. These items are all discussed in the MTP and are updated each time the MTP is updated to incorporate the most current information. It's important to add that the planning factors aren't merely a checkoff in our process. They're actually embedded in all aspects of the plan. For example, the CRTPO has made safety a very important component of its project ranking criteria. The MTP also includes the key components shown here: goals and objectives, a financial plan, project priorities, and an evaluation of various surface transportation modes as they relate to serving the needs of those in the region. These include streets, transit, bicycle, pedestrian, and greenway facilities, as well as freight movement. The importance of this type of multimodal planning is that it encourages more efficient use of facility and transportation options. I'd like to briefly cover each of these key components and then discuss how your input can help shape the plan as it's being developed. The MTP goals and objectives have evolved as each iteration of the MTP has been developed over the last several update cycles. Overall, these goals and objectives are intended to represent the policies and priorities the CRTPO strives for as it conducts its planning work, as well as guide the CRTPO beyond MTP preparation. They are fairly high level because they cover a long time period and are intended to represent the diverse communities and transportation needs and desires throughout the region. A draft set of goals and objectives for the 2045 MTP will be available for you to review and provide input during our public outreach later this month, which we will discuss in just a few minutes. Obviously, without funding, it would not be possible to continue to maintain and improve our transportation infrastructure. The CRTPO works closely with the Federal Highway Administration and the North Carolina Department of Transportation to identify anticipated funding over the life of the MTP, and then documents that in the MTP's financial plan. And financial plans are important because the MTP must be fiscally constrained. This means that MTPs are not simply a wish list of projects. In other words, the funding identified in the financial plan must be adequate to account for the priority projects identified in the MTP. One of the major undertakings for the MTP is to identify and prioritize projects. It should be noted that due to transportation legislation enacted in North Carolina, the Strategic Transportation Investments Act, there is an emphasis on roadway project prioritization. I want to be clear that this does not necessarily reflect the priorities and policies of the CRTPO. However, a vast majority of funding that the CRTPO can influence relates to roadway projects. I'd also like to note that most of the roadway projects proposed for the MTP, other than freeway-type facilities, include bicycle and/or pedestrian accommodations. In other words, the CRTPO assumes a complete streets approach when it is evaluating projects. In addition, there are various other funding sources that are available for bicycle, pedestrian, and transit projects. These funding sources are accounted for in the MTP. The MTP also includes a discussion of the various surface transportation modes utilized in the region, from roadway to bicycle and pedestrian, transit, and freight movement. The MTP defines how these modes are being accommodated in the transportation network, what improvements are desired to enhance how these modes serve the region, and what can be done to implement these improvements into the future. The MTP's emphasis on multiple modes of transportation will mean more future choices for transportation, less dependency on cars, and air quality benefits that it brings. As has been alluded to, this plan takes a long time to develop. Initial work on the project was started early last year, and the MTP is not anticipated to be approved until spring of 2018. And each of these milestones are achieved and other technical aspects of the plan are completed, they will be documented and ultimately make up the 2045 MTP final plan document. There will also be several resources developed to help display the plan information in a variety of different formats for convenience and to reach a broader audience. Public involvement will be a significant part of this undertaking, which is what we want to get into now. And with that, I'll turn the webinar over to Erin Kinney.
Thank you, Bob. Before we discuss specific public involvement tools, we want to reiterate that the public outreach for the 2045 MTP will be ongoing throughout the development of the plan. We want to offer platforms and opportunities for education and information about long-range transportation planning all year long, with specific public outreach at key junctures to request specific feedback on the MTP. The first of the focused public engagement periods started on Monday, January 16th and concludes on Friday, February 10th. The intent of this public involvement period will include three main areas. First, commenting on goals and objectives. Second, commenting on priority projects to be considered for inclusion in the 2045 MTP. And third, filling out an online survey to provide input to CRTPO. We have created a website for the 2045 MTP, which will be the primary location to find all the MTP information, including the information described on the previous slide, and will be updated often to include new items as they become available. On the website, our news and updates section features a video about the MTP, which we will play for you in a moment. We've also posted a PDF of our draft goals and objectives that will be used to guide the plan development for the duration of the project. Also in this section, you'll find an interactive priority projects map, which allows participants to add their ideas by plotting projects right on the map and also leaving general comments. In conjunction with using this map, we encourage residents to complete and submit the 2045 MTP survey. It will help CRTPO assess transportation needs, identify trends and interests in our planning area. Further down the screen on the 2045 MTP website, you will find a written overview of the MTP and CRTPO. In addition, our toll-free hotline is listed, and it provides information in English and 8 additional languages and allows callers to leave their feedback as a message. Responses will then be translated and provided to CRTPO. You can also follow CRTPO on social media via Facebook and Twitter, and we feature links to those sites on our web pages. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/CRTPO, and our Twitter page is twitter.com/CLT Regional TPO. In addition, we will coordinate with a wide variety of stakeholder groups that are interested in hosting us for informational presentations and discussions. We are also producing different types of materials for distribution, including flyers, posters, and a special edition newsletter that was sent out earlier this week. If you would like to get on our distribution list, you can sign up on our website, www.crtpo.org, or you can contact us directly to be added. As I mentioned, we did produce a video and we posted that on our website. We will also show it at specific events, and we would like to play it for you. We will cue that up. Just so you know, the video is approximately 3.5 minutes, and then we'll wrap up the presentation and we can begin.
The Charlotte region is a thriving hub in the Southeast with a vibrant culture and diverse landscape. From quaint southern towns and open spaces to active commerce centers that provide jobs, services, and recreation. We have become one of the fastest growing areas in the country, with a population that is continuing to increase, along with opportunities for a successful and sustainable economy. With the rising number of people living and traveling here, our transportation system is more important than ever. We have expanded our road network. We are broadening public transit service. Our trail networks are extending, and a new intermodal freight facility has been constructed at our region's bustling international airport. But there is more work to be done to ensure our region remains a vibrant and attractive place to live. One way we accomplish these tasks is through the planning efforts of the Charlotte Regional Transportation Planning Organization, CRTPO, and the development of a Metropolitan Transportation Plan, or MTP. Representing over 1 million residents spread across 3 counties, the CRTPO coordinates with our towns and cities, as well as other transportation agencies, to identify and prioritize the region's transportation needs and define solutions to make travel faster, safer, and more convenient. The policies and priorities we establish are then included in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. The MTP encompasses goals, objectives, priorities, and anticipated funding for our region for the next 20-plus years. And every few years, our MTP is updated to address a variety of factors, from the environment and air quality to system expansion and maintenance, in order to improve how people and goods move around our region, enhancing our quality of life today and tomorrow. The CRTPO is now developing the next Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the 2045 MTP. This plan is anticipated to be completed by the spring of 2018. We encourage you to be engaged in the process and become part of the conversation with the entire community. Your input is a key component of planning for our region's future transportation. Visit www.2045mtp.org or follow us on Facebook or Twitter to review the MTP's goals and objectives, view a list of projects being considered for funding, see dates and locations where public appearances are being planned, and tell us your opinion. Thank you for your participation and support as we work together to enhance transportation in our dynamic region. The Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Transportation for our growing tomorrow.
Thank you. We hope the video sums up what we have discussed here today and further drives home the point that your input is vital to the planning process and helps to make this a better plan. Your input is important to let us know how you feel about transportation in our region so we can continue to consider those options and incorporate them into all the work we do. We believe all these strategies, and especially the online and social media aspects, will allow us to distribute information to a wide audience and reach a large portion of the CRTPO planning area population. However, your assistance in spreading the word about this project is vital to reaching as many residents as possible.
Thank you, Bob and Aaron, for explaining the MTP and also how it relates to the other work of the MPO. Just as a reminder, there are various ways to be involved with this plan, and we encourage everyone listening to explore the website and to also pass this information on to others that you feel might be interested in providing input. As we mentioned, your input really helps CRTPO and make this the best plan possible. We want to thank everyone who participated today in the webinar, and those who are listening. We appreciate your interest in the Metropolitan Transportation Plan development process. And again, just want to remind you that this public involvement will be ongoing throughout the entire year. So please feel free to log on to the website. It will be updated regularly, and there will be more information available. And in particular, please check back during the public involvement period from January 16th to February 10th and fill out the information that Aaron mentioned previously. In addition, this webinar will be posted on the website if you'd like to view it again or if you'd like to share it with others in your community. Your opinions really will help CRTPO with this MTP and to keep your priorities in mind. So once again, thank you, and everyone have a great day.